Good morning and welcome to Waking Up with Don. I have a couple of special guests here in the studio in the way of Selena and Sandia. Am I saying your names right?
Yes.
Now, you know, we like to have a lot of fun on this show, and we talk a lot about quality of life, how to make yourself happy, you know, how to live longer, health tips and all. But you guys work for a hospice. And this is something that I think everybody at some point is going to have to deal with. The longer we live, the more of these types of things we're going to see. A lot of us have elderly parents. Maybe we have sick relatives. I mean, things happen in people's lives that aren't always happy. But there's a way to do this in a dignified and loving way, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And isn't that what hospice is about?
Yes.
Selena, could you tell me what, like, if you were to give me just like a layman's definition of hospice, what would you tell me?
Well, hospice is end-of-life comfort. It's comfort for the family. It's comfort for the patient, spiritually, emotionally, and medically.
Well, good. And when would you call hospice? And when is that something you need to plan, keep in the back of your mind, or is it like, you know, a fire alarm? Oh my God, someone's sick, and we're getting some bad news, and should we contact hospice? How do we get in touch with you, and who makes that recommendation? Does a doctor say call hospice, or?
A lot of the times patients do rely on their doctors, but it's a good thing for the family to get in contact with us if they feel like their loved one is declining despite medical treatment, and just call us and we can come out and just do an informational visit, and they can talk to their doctor, and we can see how we can help them.
Yeah. Now you're a clinician.
Yes.
You're a nurse, right?
Yes, sir. I'm a hospital liaison, and I'm an RN.
Okay. And do you deal with the families directly, or
I
just
do.
the patients, or? Is hospice for the patient? Is it for the family, or is it really for both?
It's for both.
And what would you do? What would you tell a family who's about to lose a loved one, or you know the end is near? How would you start that conversation?
Well, I do this every day, and I just
That's got to be tough too.
It is. It's very tough. I just let them open up to me and see what kind of feelings they have. A lot of it is just listening and just being there for support, emotional support especially, because emotions are high, and also spiritual support, because families need to be comfortable spiritually, and just to let them know that their loved ones are going to be cared for, their pain is going to be controlled. That gives families a little bit of peace of mind.
And we've got to run off to a break right now, but maybe on the other side of that, you can tell me a little bit more about the mechanics of this grief counseling, how that goes, and maybe you can tell me how we can get in touch with you, and maybe some of the things you're doing to market the services of hospice.
Okay.
Yes.
And we'll be right back after your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. We're talking to Sandia and Selena. You almost sound like a singing group or something. Sandia and Selena from Covenant Hospice. And, you know, we talked a little bit about, you know, these different stages of grieving that everyone goes through. And you would guide them as a clinician through those stages to kind of make a more dignified and graceful exit from this world, and have, you know, family members, you know, get back to where they need to be.
Right.
I notice that you've brought this. It's 10 steps. And Sandy, can you tell me about this pamphlet and what this is about?
This is our newest pamphlet, and the one thing I love about this pamphlet for our families and our patients, it's probably the easiest, most caring, most simplest little explanation of how to explain a life-limiting illness. And so we would be more than happy to make this available to anyone who would like a copy. They can stop by our office, which is at the corner of Harrison and 19th, and pick up a copy anytime they would like.
So, Selena, this isn't really so much about grieving or dying. It's really about quality of life, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you get a patient loved one's pain under control, they're breathing better, it just makes a world of difference in their life. Less suffering, more quality, so they can spend time with their loved ones.
So you make those final days much more enjoyable, much more comfortable, and you know, and filled with love, I guess. I mean, only your family can really provide.
Right.
I mean, a hospice person can come in and do the counseling, but it's really up to family members, isn't it, to make sure that we get this Right.
To add what Selena said, with bereavement, we offer to our families up to a year after the loved one has passed away for bereavement services, counseling services to family members. And if they need a longer period of time, we allow that. And we have our own bereavement specialist that does this with our family members. And there's no charge for this service.
So once your loved one has passed, that's not the end of services for Covenant Hospice. You continue on with that whole, I don't know, do you call it grief counseling?
Yeah,
Is that
grief
what it is?
counseling.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it's what is a successful outcome? I mean, what is because someone dies,
Right.
but there can be a successful outcome to this. Is that right?
If the family dies, if the patient dies with comfort, they're comfortable, their pain is relieved. They just have a comfortable, peaceful death. Families respond in different ways, but if the family is comfortable as well.
And it's going to be a sad time, no matter which way.
It's going to be a sad time.
No matter which way you slice it, but it'll be a much more bearable time afterwards. And if you can go out on a high note, why not? I mean, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
How long have you been offering this service here in the area?
We opened our branch here in Panama City that covers both Bay and Gulf County in 1996, but we're celebrating our 31st anniversary. We actually opened in our home office, our corporate office is in Pensacola. So we have 11 branches. We serve South Alabama and Northwest Florida.
So if we wanted to find out more about Covenant Hospice, we can just Google up Covenant Hospice and find your website and find out where your branches are, and we'll get a phone number and all that stuff from there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Ladies, thanks so much for coming on the show and getting us smart on hospice care.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And you're welcome back anytime.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back after a Max Biz tip from Zenobia.
Hi, Zenobia Andrews here, your business system strategist, and I am delighted to be here in the Max Out Studios bringing you your Max Biz tip for today. This week we're talking about building systems. We're talking about, in particular, this week, creating a hiring system for you, for your company, for your organization. Yesterday we were talking about, how you can use LinkedIn and Indeed to post these jobs in your job title. Your next step is going to be accepting completed applicants, the job applicants. How are you going to accept those applications once you get them? And then number two, how are you going to screen the applicants? You could possibly do it on the phone, you can do it online, but there's a variety of ways that you can screen the applicants that you not get overwhelmed and frustrated in the process. And then number three, begin to prepare your interview questions. This is so important. You want to make sure that you prepare these questions based off of the client or the potential ideal candidate that you're looking for to bring in on your team. And then here's a bonus for you. As you're creating your system for this ideal client, right, you want to go ahead and start thinking about what is that position's future day-to-day task, their day-to-day job function. You want to go ahead and start creating that system as well, because once they come on board, you're going to want to have something for them to do each and every day. Listen, I'm Zenobia Andrews, your business system strategist, and I am absolutely here to support you. Listen, if you need additional help, you can reach me at www.zenoviaandrews.com. And listen, if you follow me on social media, I will definitely follow you back. And let's continue to press towards the max.
Welcome back to the show, and we have our pet expert, our local veterinarian, Dr. Stephen Favaloro from Forest Park Animal Hospital, to give us some summer tips for the dogs.
Very good. Good to see you
and the
today,
pets.
sir.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming by again.
Thank you. Always enjoy.
Summertime's here.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people will be here very shortly, and people are being outdoors more, and I guess there'll be some beach time and some swimming time and all that
Absolutely.
stuff. What about pets?
People love to, enjoy water with their pets. People go to Shell Island with their pets. They have pools. They like the dogs to swim in their pools with them, have a good time. And so there's
It's like my neighbor, we live on a lake.
Yep.
My neighbor, I saw his dogs romping around, running through the lake, and
Right.
Catching a frisbee or whatever.
So some of the things that are important when you're, with your dogs, as far as like when you have a pool, so people like to get new pets and introduce them to water. You want to introduce them slowly. You don't want to just throw them in there and go, let's see if you can swim.
Yeah.
You want to show them where the steps are, kind of let them get used to it, let them have an exit strategy, if you will, so they know how to get out. You know, they make those floaty ramps that you can put on the deep end that they can get out if they can't make it back. So, you know, they got things like that. You know, and there's certain breeds of dogs that you got to be real careful with. You know, dogs like Dachshunds and Basset Hounds and
not
pugs.
good swimmers. Yeah.
Well, they have short legs, you know, short mouths for the pugs and stuff. They go under once or twice, and they're going to have a difficult time.
Yeah. Our little dog knew where the steps were. When we had her in the pool, she knew. She'd swim to the steps because that's where she could climb out.
Absolutely, and you know, and the more they get used to it, then the more comfortable they feel. But when they just start off, you know, you got to be careful. And
you don't want to just throw them in a deep end. Do
no,
you?
no, not unless you want to jump in and go get them. You know, if you're not ready for that, and then they might get scared, and I might want to do it again. And then there's some safety features too, like, you know, for people who can't put a fence around their pool. There's this safety turtle kit that you can get. It's for pets and it's for kids. And
safety turtle.
Basically, it's like this base alarm, and then there's a wristband that you can put around either their collar or you can put like on a kid's wrist. And what happens is when that wristband gets wet, it sets off the alarm. So, you know, you never want to really leave them alone, but if you're nervous or scared, they might fall in, particularly older dogs. That's
and maybe even a puppy, too.
Absolutely. So they're curious, lean over a little too far and go in.
Yeah.
What
about drinking pool water? I used to bust my dog drinking out of the pool all the time.
And, you know, pool water is, you know, it depends on the chlorine level. The chlorine's not good for them. You know, if they're out like at, you know, Shell Island, you know, Bayside or Gulf Side. I mean, there's a lot of salt water in there, and
you can't drink that. That's for
you know,
sure.
in lakes like in neighbors, they, you know, algae's there. So, you know, the chlorine, the algae is certainly not good for you. The salt water, not only is it a cathartic, it'll make them throw up and have a lot of diarrhea, but can also really dehydrate them. That salt will pull all the water out of their vessels, and so their brain will actually shrink up, and they'll start having seizures and neurologic, and you know, they'll die.
Yeah, you always hear that you should never drink salt water. I guess that goes for
for that same
animal
reason.
friends too.
Absolutely, and then, you know, there's places people will bring, you know, they'll see a lake or they'll see water, good access, because there's not a lot of places that you can bring your pet. But, you know, they'll go and let their dog run out there, and they won't be aware of like oyster shells or, you know, broken glass. I see a lot of dogs that come in during the summer with cut pads. So if your dog will tolerate those boots, you know, that's not the worst thing to do too.
If you're running on the beach or someplace like that, you know. Is there something different about a dog's constitution that makes them a little more resilient to things? Because I've caught my dog eating things I don't want to talk about. I mean, is drinking a little pool water really going to kill them?
Not a little bit, absolutely not. But, you know, I'd be more concerned about salt water and then like in lakes that are kind of stagnant, the, you know, blue-green algae that might grow in there, certainly. Yeah,
and also you got to be aware of things that might be in the water, like alligators and snakes and things like that. And dogs, a lot of dogs don't know.
No,
danger.
They have no idea.
They'll pursue a snake or they'll pursue an alligator and start barking at it. I mean, who the heck
And some
knows?
have better instincts than others, but we try to domesticate them so much we kind of take some of those instincts out of them.
Yeah, that's
you know, and then after you go on swimming with them, it's always a good idea to, you know, give them a good bath. The chlorine's not good, and, you know, dry them out. The salt will dry them out. So give them a nice bath. You know, that way you can get all the water and everything else that's in it, and then clean their ears real well too, because moisture is like the worst enemy in the world for ears, because it's already kind of a dark area, and their body temperature is about 100 to 102.5. So you get a dark, moist, you know, environment, and you know, you're going to get ear infections.
Yeah, dark, moist, warm in there. How do you clean out your dogs? Are you just use a cotton pad or something?
Well, most people, you know, you can do, if you're not wanting to get the wax out, you just want to get the water out, you know, I tell people just take 70% isopropyl alcohol and just, you know, saturate a cotton ball and just squeeze some in the ear and squeeze it, and alcohol is a desiccant, so when it evaporates, it'll pull that water out. Oh,
that's a good tip. That's good to know. Well, we got to take care of our dogs. Thanks, Dr. Favaloro, for coming on the show and getting us smart on dogs and swimming.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I've got my good friend here, Daryl Day, in the studio, and we're going to talk a little bit about Daryl and what he does in the off time. When he's not aggravating you with his views, he's actually a regular guy.
How about that?
Hey Daryl, you know, I kind of copied you. I have a morning sip of coffee on my show now, inspired by your morning sip of coffee, and maybe you can help me, you know, ring in this show here with a morning sip of coffee the way it's meant to be by Deja Brew Coffee Shop out on the beach.
Here's to us.
All right, morning sip of coffee. Here it goes.
You have to do the part.
Oh, sorry. I'm learning from the master
Oh,
here.
yeah. Not just anybody can do it.
Yeah, Deja Brew, best coffee on the beach. Oh, by the way, people know you from the radio. You're the morning drive guy. You know, some people get aggravated and call you up. A lot of people agree with you. But you're a guy. Yeah, I mean, you're a regular guy. You're a citizen of Bay County, lifelong citizen here. You've got a family, 5 generations living here, and you've got quite a personal story. But what do you like to do when you're off time? When you're not researching for the radio show, what do you do?
Well, yeah, I read a lot. I like to read a lot, believe it or not, and I'm a history buff. I like to read about history. But I also like to just kind of sit out in my backyard, maybe perhaps smoke a cigar, and just kind of take some time off, because what I do can be kind of depressing sometimes.
And stressful too.
Stressful 3 hours a day. But I like to hunt. I love to spend time in the woods.
I know you're an outdoorsman,
I love to hunt and fish. I probably like to hunt a little bit more than I do fish. But I like to play music. I play guitar.
I didn't know that.
Well,
I'm learning about Darrell Day here.
Usually when I play the guitar wins, but I still attempt to do it. And I like to go around to some of the musical venues in Panama City. The thing, Music Matters downtown Panama City. And that thing is really, really awesome. Started by
that's a big deal.
Crook and Victoria Stewart. That is a prime example of what, I'm not going to talk about politics, but it's a prime example of what can be done with citizens' initiative.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that whole grassroots, you know, citizens taking responsibility for their own quality of life. This is how these things bubble up. This is how great ideas are born. This is what makes Bay County a great place to live.
I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to live in Bay County. I've moved away. A lot of people that, if you're a Bay County native, there's only 2 kind of people. Half of them are trying to get out of Bay County, the other half is trying to get back.
Yeah.
Bay County is really a great place to live. It's a great place to raise kids. Are there bigger cities? Of course there are, but Panama City is just the right size.
And surrounding counties too. I mean, let's not give Gulf County short shrift or, you know, or any of the others.
It could be deep sea water fishing, deep sea fishing, freshwater fishing, diving. I understand that you took a diving trip here just the other day.
Yes.
You can be in caves, spelunking in caves in Mariana. You know, the things that can be done around, if you're willing to get out and look for them, you can't find a better place than Bay County.
Darrell, we got to run off to a commercial break, but on the other side of that, let's talk about more of some of the cool stuff that you do outside the studio.
Okay.
And I want to talk about your family a little bit too, because you got 2 boys that are keeping you on your toes, Teenagers, gotta love them. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show, and I have my friend Darrell Day here in the studio. He's a local radio personality on Talk 101. He's also a great friend and a Renaissance man.
Well, I've been called worse, I think. Renaissance man.
Well, no, you're a reader. You're almost a constitutional expert, I would say. Or, you know, you have a good working knowledge of the Constitution.
I've just read the Constitution. It's not a difficult document.
And you talk about it a lot.
I talk about it a lot.
So the more you talk about it, the more you learn, the more you're familiar with it. You're an outdoorsman, and you're a dad.
I'm a single father of 2 teenage boys.
Man, oh man.
Man, oh man is exactly right.
How old are the boys?
17 and 15. Just turned 17 and 15.
Oh, the Wonder Bread years.
Well, I'm amazed at the amount of wealth that is contained in just the 17 and 15-year-old, because collectively they know everything.
Isn't that something?
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know, but the older they get, the more wise you'll become to them. I'm sure.
I hope so.
Yeah. I went through the whole teenage thing myself, of course. I was, as we all have. So you can be, and believe it or not, I was kind of a high-spirited kid. And
yeah, but they're good kids. They're really good kids. They're they're at the age where you can kind of put them on cruise control a little bit. Just give them a little bit more leash, as you have to do. You have to, as a parent, you have to give them a little bit more room. But they're good kids.
What life lessons are you imparting to them? I mean, you're an outdoorsman. You take them hunting, I guess, and you take them fishing and all that stuff.
To respect to conserve the outdoors. In other words, as hunters and fishermen, I don't think you can find more conservative-minded, or not conservative, but conservation-minded people.
I mean, it's in the name.
Exactly.
Conservation, conservative.
You have to eat what you shoot.
Yep.
I think it's important to. I know my youngest boy brought in a frog that he had somehow loved to death. This was years ago. and I explained to him that the next time you do that, you're going to have to eat him. Yeah. You know, you can't do that to animals. You know, if we decide to hunt animals, we have to respect them, and if we're going to eat the meat. So if you accidentally kill another frog, you're going to have to eat the frog.
Yeah, I guess what you have for dinner there, fella,
fried
legs.
Cleaned up his whole attitude towards animals. Not that he was cruel or anything, but trying to keep him and look at him, you know.
Well, you know, kids get a little crazy once they get that first rifle or BB gun or whatever. And
trying to teach them that part of becoming a man is becoming a good citizen.
Yeah, and having integrity,
integrity and character. You know.
And just because you have the power doesn't mean you have to use it all the time.
Well, that's a theme that we talk about a lot at my house: freedom, but yet having responsibility. Responsibility. Well, you can have freedoms, but you have to be responsible with them too. You have to kind of look out for the folks around you.
Do you consider yourself blessed?
Oh, beyond measure. A lot of people tell me, because I adopted my 2 children, that what a blessing you were to them. It was the other way around.
Yeah, isn't that the
really
truth?
Really was.
You know, I've had a lot of people sitting where you're sitting now who run different charities, and they say they get more out of it than they give.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot more in it for the giver than
Absolutely.
there is the receiver.
As always. Yeah, I'm blessed beyond all riches that the earth could ever give me by being a dad. And I have a wonderful daughter, too. And sometimes she gets left out of the conversation because she's not at home. She's a grown lady and doing great, got her own career.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah, we used to go to the same church for a while.
And I don't want ever to leave her out of the conversation, but she's not currently living at the house with me when the boys are.
Of course, she's grown up now, and you did a fine job of raising her, too. So she's a great citizen.
Great young lady. Beautiful
family.
Beautiful young lady. I got beautiful grandkids.
Of course you do. How could you
college,
not? You got Daryl Day genes. You got to be good looking. That's all there is to it.
I have grandchildren in college.
Oh man, you're old. Daryl Day, thanks so much, buddy, for coming on the show and sharing just a little personal information that people may find interesting about you. We will see you next time.